Thank you all for your testimonies today. Mr. Robbins, am I saying that right? Robbins? Okay, Robbins, right?
Robbins, yes,
okay,
ma'am.
want to make sure I get it right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for joining us today again. As you are well aware, expanding counter-drone authorities to additional government agencies and potentially state and local law enforcement is a complicated task. Agencies must ensure careful coordination to avoid unintended consequences that counter-drone systems can have on airspace safety, especially in urban environments and near airports. In March, the Secret Service allegedly operated a counter-drone system without appropriate coordination with interagency partners, including the FAA. The system reportedly operated outside of the approved frequencies, resulting in automated alerts to the pilots of several aircrafts flying around DCA Airport, which could have had an adverse impacts to flight safety. With that being said, what can be learned from this incident?
Great question, ma'am. Thank you so much. First and foremost, I think it's important that there's a hot wash from that incident and that the lessons are understood and distributed to all currently federally authorized users to learn lessons from what occurred in that incident so it doesn't happen again elsewhere in the nation. But I think one of the elements that we can also take is training and delegating authority to state, local, tribal, territorial law enforcement is not entirely new to the federal government. There are programs that exist now that include explosive ordnance disposal and SWAT team training that are typically held at the federal level and then delegated down to the state level through training programs, as well as with federal grants as well. There's training facilities at Quantico, in Huntsville, Alabama, and other places around the country where state and local law enforcement go and they learn from our nation's very best operators, and then they are deputized to go out and do these kind of more difficult missions. Not necessarily every public safety official should be a counter-UAS operator, but some should be and go through very rigorous training. And then it's incumbent upon Congress, in my view, to then provide oversight of that program and how is it going? In the same way that you're providing oversight on the Secret Service incident, providing oversight on the future authorities that are delegated down. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for that. That was my part 2 question about what can Congress do, but thank you so much for that because I'm always preaching about oversight, which is extremely important. Mr. Feddersen, I understand you have experience working within the executive branch, including at the National Security Council. What can we as legislators do to help ensure appropriate interagency coordination within the executive branch?
I think the actual interagency coordination is ongoing and moving well. Obviously, there was a misconnection with the last incident that you mentioned. However, I'd like it to be known that out of the 5-year pilot program for federal law enforcement, now 7 years into the program, that was the first and only publicly broadcast issue that they've had. I know there's a concern with, again, moving that to private security or moving it to state and local law enforcement, but out of 7 years, 1 incident, and it was deconflicted following the incident. And they have, interagency processes in place to go ahead and deal with an investigation, to follow up and correct those issues. So beyond that, I think it's just transparency between, I know some departments and agencies are a little slow to respond to congressional requests for reports, but I think that is, again, just transparency and communication coordination. I know that the interagency is talking about this issue. I know the interagency wishes that we'd have the expansion of authorities. DHS, DOJ, and the FAA have all commented on expansion of authorities. I think to wrap up that question, I think it's important to understand that there is no reason today why detection authorities and mitigation authorities cannot be expanded so long as the individuals are properly trained.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I'm short on time for my next question about drones flying over New Jersey. For some reason, they seem to love New Jersey. But with that, I'll yield back, Chairman. Thank you.